Imagine for a second a universe where one film had the power to alter the course of cinematic history. Indeed, we will be discussing a groundbreaking film from the 20th century in today's video. The film ushered in the golden age of cinema, and its success paved the way for the industry and its practitioners to achieve the heights to which we now aspire. Rita Hayworth's performance was the most shocking aspect since it set a new standard for acting and became the pinnacle of perfection. Get ready to find out about the most iconic movie moment that made everyone gasp and witness how it impacted society on a global scale. Since Rita was in so many fictional productions, all of which are cherished as classic television gems, Green viewers may begin to wonder which films we are referring about. The Lady from Shanghai and Only Angels Have Wings are two of these films. Older and more seasoned moviegoers, though, will recognize that these aren't the films that cemented Rita's legendary status. The film in question was helmed in 1946 by the legendary Charles Vidor, widely recognized as the finest filmmaker of all time. Even by his own standards, the cinematography he showcased in the 1946 film Gilda was remarkable, adding to his already stellar reputation. Because the film's message and the inspiration it contained were so out of the ordinary back then, it came as a complete shock. Watch the video all the way to the finish to find out what motivated him and the message he intended to convey through the film. In light of this, why is this film held in such high regard as if it were a sacred artifact? Several factors contribute to this, and we will discuss them in detail in the video. Most importantly, though, is the fact that it takes place in Argentina in the years following World War II. You are aware that the actual conclusion of World War II was not far off. Thus, the setting of the film spoke with and resonated with viewers. This was fascinating because it gave the impression that the movie's plot was so realistic that viewers could almost put themselves in the shoes of the characters. Beyond that, the characters in the film embodied the strong feelings of power, jealousy, and vengeance that the people of that era experienced in the aftermath of the war. As a result, this film became a safe space for viewers to express their overwhelming feelings. It's not that we're promoting this work of fiction solo. The film was incredibly impressive and well respected. The 2003 decision to add it to the U.S. National Film Registry. It goes without saying that this is among the greatest accolades a picture can receive. With that said, there is one point that many remain confused about. In this narrative, who stood out the most? This is a perplexing issue that many have pondered, but you will also find the answer to it at the end of the film. Rest assured. It's not like the entire plot takes place in a post-World War II universe. It isn't even central to the story. A knife could sever the tension between the characters in the primary plot's scenario. A poisonous love triangle involving a husband, wife, and a lover whose lover, well, let's just say he loved risks, was the main focus of this novel. A talented gambler who made a livelihood from street games in Buenos Aires, Johnny Farrell, Glenn Ford, is introduced at the beginning of the story. Balin Munson, portrayed by George McCready, was a harsh and merciless casino mogul who oversaw an illicit international tungsten cartel. Meeting Munson alters his life substantially. Johnny and Balin became fast friends after Balin attempted to employ him as his assistant due to Johnny's ingenuity. Rest assured, it is not a contemporary Netflix series. These two aren't going to get together. When Johnny meets Gilda, Balin's wife, tensions in the plot begin to rise. Rita Hayworth played Gilda, and the instant Johnny and Hayworth meet her gaze, chemistry ignites. Not your typical spark for affairs. That was extraordinary. That way, until the big reveal, the audience has no idea what's happening. Johnny slept with Gilda before. The entrance of Gilda ignites a passionate love triangle that explodes with explosive force. It seems like Johnny and Gilda would respect each other's boundaries now that Gilda was married, but something went wrong. Neither Balin nor Gilda loves the other. To Balin, she was a stunning trophy that demonstrated his dominance. In Gilda's view, Balin was more of a manipulator and oppressor who had ensnared her. Even while they were together, Johnny was certain that Gilda was unfaithful, so things weren't much better with Johnny. They were each driven to madness by the other's lack of devotion and toxic manipulation, and they eventually had to break up. At this point, all three of them had encountered one another, and the future seemed uncertain. When Gilda and Johnny make eye contact, and you know what? Balin is really bright. When he discovered they were involved, he spoke a word that sent shivers down the audience's spines. Hatred is an exciting emotion, and the plot progressed accordingly. You should know that Johnny was well aware of the consequences that would befall him in the event that he dared to pilfer anything that belonged to Balin. Consequently, his life or death would depend on his choices. Johnny acted wisely since he was a very intelligent man. Balin made the correct decision when he left them alone while he went on a business trip. After catching a glimpse of the stake, Gilda couldn't resist the intense heat of passion and declared her affections for Johnny and her feelings for him. Johnny made the correct choice because he recalled the consequences that Balin could face if he discovered that he was having an affair with his wife. The crowd went wild as they watched him passionately kiss Gilda. As long as Balin remained in the dark, our boy reasoned, he would be fine. The most consequential event in film history began with this, and the fallout stunned the world. There were three things happening at once as the movie went on. As Johnny's allegiance to Balin grew, he began to feel the weight of remorse. The two of them were beginning to pique Balin's suspicion, and Gilda was repressing her feelings, which she knew were about to explode. This emotional turmoil in Gilda was going to set the stage for Rita's most jaw-dropping cinematic moment. When Gilda finally loses it and lets it all out in this scene, it is often considered the film's climax. The trouble is that Gilda had a lot of personality and strength before she was married to Balin, but she has been incredibly subdued ever since. These feelings were building up, and suddenly, something occurred. The most impressive performances by Rita. Rita looked breathtaking in a strapless black dress that she wore to a dinner party. She looked very stunning as she sang the provocative and alluring "Blame It All on Mame," a song that could make your heart skip a beat. The now iconic hair flips were popularized in subsequent movies. Rita Hayworth's performance was a clinic in magnetic presence. The way she tossed her hair, looked at the audience, and made inappropriate use of her seductive smile drew attention almost as much as her dancing and acting did. She was hinting at the many facets of her character with the symbolic way she removed her glove. According to observers, HC exhibited both strength and vulnerability. How on earth could the board approve this film for airing when we were clearly not expecting such an explicit scene? Later on in the video, you'll see the solution. The two-pronged strategy is what really sets this scenario apart. It serves as a metaphor for the glitz and glamour of yesteryear Hollywood, but it also marks a turning point in the story that makes Gilda's influence clear. Gilda sees her body as more than just a weapon, it is also a shield and a means of self-expression in a male-dominated world. Even when objectified, she manages to control how others view her by directing their focus in her direction. We feel compelled to mention that this scene has had an incalculable cultural effect. Both Rita Hayworth and Gilda became household names as a result of it. An iconic event in her career, the striptease encapsulated the allure that had made Hayworth a favorite of American troops returning from World War II. In fact, her likeness was so ubiquitous that it was emblazoned on barrack walls, and she was venerated and adored as a goddess in those barracks. In addition, the words of the song suggest that anytime there is a problem, it is best to blame a girl named Mame. This represents Mame as herself, blaming Gilda for all the wrongdoings in her life. This was the turning point in Gilda's rebellion against her possessive husband and her lover, who both saw Gilda as a prisoner. Incredible things happened in the film's climax following this moment. Another reason this film is widely respected is that it successfully subverted stereotypes. Back then, it was standard fare for Hollywood endings to feature the death of some generic villain. This film's happy ever after tale included a new hero and heroine. Just how, you may wonder? I suggest you watch the film to get the answer. At a time when most people were exceedingly conservative, you might be asking how a film with a scenario like his was made. There is a straightforward answer. It was a tremendous challenge. There was a fair amount of controversy off-screen throughout the film's production. Rita had just given child, therefore there was an immediate need to address her figure. The introduction of corsets at this time had a miraculous effect. This served as her personal cheat code, allowing her to look better in crucial scenes. Not only was she pregnant, but she also had other issues, such as contract disagreements with Columbia Pictures caused by her rising stardom. Hayworth eventually negotiated a portion of the revenues from future films as a result of this. Have you ever wondered why we bring up something so ordinary? Reason being, this was the turning point in Hollywood history when it became clear that actors could finally make their voices heard and make demands. There is yet more to come with Rita. Additional issues also surfaced. Everyone knows that Gilda was a feminist film since the lead role was played by a woman instead of a man. The poster for the film became a symbol since it was so out there back then. playing a role in the 1994 picture, The Shawshank Redemption. Actors who were considered to be conservative and sexist at the time turned down roles in the film because of Gilda's strong persona. Humphrey Bogart was one of them. He was even considered playing Johnny, but he turned it down because he thought Hayworth would steal the show from any of his co-stars. Everyone could see how terrified the public was of Gilda and Rita Hayworth from this. In the end, the picture was a smashing hit, and it altered the way society operated. Just how? To discover out, watch the video all the way to the end. It wasn't Gilda or Johnny who were the film's protagonists. Incredible individuals, including Charles Vidor, whose directing was crucial to the film's success, were responsible for its making. The German Expressionist movement had a profound impact on him. Thus, he created an atmosphere of suspense and drama through the use of dramatic lighting and shadow. The breathtaking sequences that portray the character's emotional state are the product of his collaboration with cinematographer Rudolf Mate. The creative use of camera angles and movements in conjunction with the settings made it easy to see if the characters were furious, pleased, depressed, or in the mood for evil. Stephen Goodson's Art Deco-inspired sets created an opulent and evocative backdrop that was essential to the production. That is not all it takes to create a critically acclaimed film that alters audiences' worldviews. Without the score, the entire film would have seemed lifeless. Hugo Friedhofer wrote the score for the picture. Let it be said that the songs he composed were tailor-made for those particular situations. His sensuous Put the Blame on Mame embodies Gilda's alluring charisma, while Anita Ellis's heartbreaking ballad Amato Mio expresses the profound yearning and passion between Gilda and Johnny. Not only that, but the Latin rhythms, classical music, and jazz that Friedhofer drew from all find common ground in his creations. In the end, they helped the picture succeed. Last but not least, there is something that most people overlook. And the casts choose. Using any other performers to portray the movie's characters would have made it hard to achieve this rendition of the characters. That becomes clear when you observe how Rita Hayworth's performance aptly portrays the character's power and fragility, and how George McCready's Valen Munson more than makes up for the character's heft and haughtiness, as he relishes in maintaining control. As Johnny, Glenn Ford plays the role with allure and a darker side. Johnny used to be considered a modern-day Disney figure because of how popular he was back then. To understand their feelings, picture Johnny as a darker version of Flynn Rider from Tangled. In a word, the best film of all time would not have been possible without the hard work and meticulous sorting that went into casting the roles. It has been said time and over again that Gilda revolutionized Hollywood and the entire age. What exactly does that imply? The fact remains that Gilda's revolutionary depiction of gender and power dynamics made an everlasting impression. In a patriarchal post-war culture, the film effectively depicts Gilda as an unashamed individual, highlighting the difficulties of traditional gender norms. Gilda was more than just a piece of entertainment, it was a cultural reflection on women's changing positions in society because of its progressive portrayal. Gilda is a monstrosity of cinema noir style, and the only term that comes to mind when describing it is masterpiece. Frequently mirroring the character's emotional states, as previously mentioned, but brace yourselves for yet another stunning revelation. The widespread disapproval of Gilda at the time is a major factor in the film's enduring popularity. Gilda was well received by crowds and reviewers alike, despite receiving mixed reviews at the time. Filmmakers that came after it incorporated elements of its fictional canon into their own work. Gilda created the visual and thematic groundwork for many works, including Chinatown, Body Heat, and even Mad Men on television, and it continues to motivate young women to be the best they can be.